Of course, we know the Pope has gone to be with the Lord this morning, and I spoke to the president about that as well, and he has put out a statement to say God bless the Pope and all those who loved him. He touched millions of lives throughout his tenure as the head of the Catholic Church, and so it's a solemn day for Catholics around the world, and we are praying for all those who loved the Pope and believed in him.
That is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. I don't think she's going on to a career at MSNBC. I'm just guessing. But I'm right again. Boom, bum, 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 bum. The ridiculous people at NBC Fake News, and they are thoroughly ridiculous. They have... They've taken up, and I've got to get to Pete Hegseth, too, because the long knives are out for Pete Hegseth as defense secretary, the media and the Democrat Party. But I repeat myself, when they're not firebombing the Jews in their governor's mansions, they're plotting against. And I love this. This NBC story is really something to behold. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro says he hasn't heard from Trump since the arson attack. Well, he heard from the Democrats when his house was on fire. They were being firebombed with his family inside because he's too Jewish by a Democrat who hates Israel and loves Hamas like so many of the Democrats do. Isn't that amazing? After the assassination attempt on Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania last summer, Shapiro quickly condemned the violence and worked with the Trump campaign on the investigation. That's the subheadline. Now, what they do go on to say, buried very deep in the story, is that Governor Shapiro never spoke to Donald Trump on the phone when he was shot through the ear in Josh Shapiro's state of Pennsylvania, in Butler, Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, at a big rally that everybody was enjoying until the mad sniper showed up, shot and killed one Trump supporter, shot, how many people were shot? 5? Maybe that includes the suicidal gunman because it was a suicide attack. But, you know, I've got to say, if I were President Trump, I might have called Josh Shapiro. It'd be the astute thing to do politically. Hey, look, a Democrat governor has been firebombed by a Democrat anti-Semite. If it were me, I think I'd say, hey, get Shapiro on the horn, because he was busy for a day or two, wasn't he? And President Trump is kind of busy. He's kind of busy in a big way, you know. So we got that. But this story, after a man tried to assassinate Donald Trump in July at a rally in Butler, this is how the NBC story begins, right? In Butler, Pennsylvania, the state's Democratic governor, Josh Shapiro, quickly issued a statement condemning the attempt on the Republican presidential candidate's life. Yeah, sure. In the 24 hours after the attack, Democrat Governor Shapiro worked closely with law enforcement. Oh, that's good. Including calling Republican members of Congress present at the rally. Then President Joe Biden, he called Joe Biden. Was Joe Biden anywhere near there? And NBC News, they're playing this up like, oh, we should all be so proud of Governor Shapiro. He called Joe Biden when Donald Trump was shot. What? Okay. And in the news media, that makes him the hero of the story because they're mentally ill. They're all mentally ill. That's one of the problems we have with the Democrats. So in the 24 hours after the attack, Democrat Governor Shapiro closely worked with law enforcement and called Republican members of Congress. Then President Joe Biden and the Trump campaign, although he did not speak directly to Trump. And this whole article, the whole thread, is about how Trump didn't call Shapiro. Trump didn't call Shapiro. What, was Shapiro shot through the ear in Trump's state at a rally where a suicide attacker died trying to murder him? Or because it was a Democrat that shot Trump through the ear at the rally in Pennsylvania, and it was a Democrat that firebombed Jewish Governor Josh Shapiro's governor's mansion, nearly roasting him and his family inside the governor's mansion with 2 Molotov cocktails. And here's NBC News going after Trump for doing exactly what Shapiro did, except Shapiro had a lot more reason to call than Donald John Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania. Just amazing. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. I'd bar NBC News from the White House for 4 years. Say, sorry, you don't have White House passes anymore. Your cameramen, your reporters, your producers, nobody has access to the White House for the next 4 years. And I would say State Department, Pentagon, you don't have, NBC is not a news organization anymore. You're not allowed into government buildings. You don't have passes. Shapiro told reporters Wednesday afternoon that he has not yet heard from Trump. That's last Wednesday afternoon since the attack. Now, this is what NBC News is doing today. Aren't they amazing? Now, we do have, I saw a photograph that Pete Hegseth was at the White House today. President Trump addressing the crowd at the Easter egg roll with Melania Trump there, who's just a fantastically beautiful first lady, an international fashion model, who has still never appeared on the front page of a magazine, not just a fashion magazine, any magazine. Whereas I think Michelle Obama's probably on a cover of a magazine right now. Go to your grocery store checkout line. You'll see Michelle Obama, who looks like Larry Holmes and has arms like a tow truck. And she, what did Joan Rivers say about her? That she's a tranny. I think Joan Rivers, and then days later she was killed during a medical procedure. Wasn't that amazing? But Joan Rivers summed it up pretty well, I thought, at the time. A reporter found Joan Rivers on the sidewalk and asked Joan Rivers, hey, do you think we'll ever have a gay president? And, of course, Barack Obama was president at that time.
Do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh, she's a trans. But she's on the cover of every fashion magazine, every news magazine. Melania Trump, who an actual, not, like a heavyweight boxer, but a beautiful international fashion model, never appeared on since she became First Lady on the front cover of a magazine, a news magazine, a fashion magazine, a hat magazine, a hair magazine, a shoes magazine, nothing at all, because the left is a vile, repugnant, violent criminal bunch, aren't they? They've got a lot of issues. But let me get back to Pete Hegseth, because Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense. And there is what's going on today is the news media, they've got the long knives out for the Secretary of Defense. They want to destroy him because they're insane. And they love gang members, MS-13 in particular, but Tren de Aragua also. I think they love they love Hamas. They love Hamas. And one of their heroes, of course, is the killer of a CEO in New York, Luigi Mangione. He's a hero of theirs. And they love Mahmoud Khalil, who we're trying to deport because he's a pro-Hamas recruiter in the United States. The Democrats want more murder. They want more terrorism. They want more assassination. They want more firebombing. They want more targeting the Jews, anti-Semitic attacks. They want all of that. You know how they are. And our news media, I was talking about MSDNC, and there was a CNN story in there somewhere. My great friends at Newsbusters, Media Research Center, and the wonderful Curtis Houck, who was actually on my radio show. No, he's on my television show, recently. And Curtis Houck, going back and forth with Curtis Houck today. They're keeping tabs on the news media because the news media isn't. And Curtis Houck, Newsbusters, pointing out from April 1st to April 18th, that's weeks, right? That's 18 days, 1 to 18. CNN and MSNBC referred to the Democrat Party hero Kilmore Abrego Garcia as a Maryland man, right? They call him a Maryland man, 506 times in 18 days. They referred to him as a Maryland man. not just referring to him, but referring to him as a Maryland man, 506 times. Almost 5 times more than the number of times they mentioned that he was from El Salvador, which is what he is, an El Salvador man, not a Maryland man. He's illegally in the country. So he's from El Salvador, but they say that he's a Maryland man more than 500 times and very rarely refer to him as being from El Salvador. Only 10% of the segments done by NBC, MSNBC rather, and CNN about their hero, Abrego Garcia, only 10%, 1 time out of 10, did they refer to his being in the country illegally. And they do it in the most gentle and ginger ways, right? So 90% of the time, they don't mention that he's in the country illegally, that he's an illegal alien gang member in the country because he's a hero of the Democrat Party. They want their daughter to date him, or more importantly, they want him to date their daughter. So the talking heads on MSNBC were almost twice as likely to misrepresent Garcia's immigration status as they were to describe it correctly. And the good people at Media Research Center, Newsbusters, drawing that to our attention because they are on our side. Man, oh man.
He's a Maryland man.
He's a what? He's a what?
He's a Maryland man.
And he sells the kids in the town with the
Human trafficking.
Beating his wife.
Yes, a little, he's like the Music Man. He's a little bit of the Music Man there. That's Michael put that together on Friday, just a little, during a commercial break. And he's like, I'm editing a little, it's right here in River City. And it starts with P. That rhymes with T, and that stands for trouble. Because it's right here in River City. Isn't that amazing? But Newsbusters and Curtis Houck working on that because our news media is the most corrupt institution in America. Isn't that amazing? Yes, they are. All right, Michael, let's take a phone call. Let's take a phone call. Let's go to Rod, calling from Fort Smith, Arkansas, listening on the great 102.9 in Little Rock, Arkansas. Rod, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good day, Mr. Plant.
Hey, Rod.
Fredo Garcia, husband, father, respected man in the community, Maryland man.
Right.
Anybody ever asked this Jamoke if he had a job? I mean, even a wise guy's got to have a job, yeah?
Well, yeah, it's true.
He's so...
Go ahead, Rod.
That's okay. I mean, I also want to express my condolences to Joe Biden since he lost his Social Security because he's in the 120 and over bracket. But,
your phone broke up. Your phone broke up a little bit there. You want to congratulate Joe Biden because 120 in the bracket? Tell me that again.
Because he's in the 120 bracket. He lost his Social Security,
He lost his Social Security. Oh, yeah, right. And because we got all these people over 120 years old that are still in the Social Security system. Yeah, isn't that amazing? But you say, what does Abrego Garcia do for a living is what you're asking. And the fake news media got some left-winger at a union to say, oh, yeah, he's an apprentice. He's an apprentice with us. That's it. They're saying that he's got a job. But I don't think that I believe what they're telling me. Abrego was a sheet metal apprentice and a member of the local union, is what NBC News tells me. But that's one sentence, and that's it. That's all they've got on all that. And he's an apprentice for the sheet metal workers union. But I've got to say, the tattoos on his knuckles with the marijuana leaf next to the smiling face, MS, and then the 1 and the 3 that were re-tattooed over, probably by his lawyers, into a crucifix and a skull, because who doesn't have a crucifix tattooed on a finger next to a skull? Aren't they amazing? And the news media just lies to us about everything, and we cannot accept what the news media tells us, can we?
No, sir. I don't pay much attention to those guys anymore. They just, I always had Fredo Garcia tagged for a Teamsters union,
right,
enforcing or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that is a fact. Man, oh, man. Yeah, well, listen, you do the right thing not believing them, Rod, because you're a common sense American and you're not suckered every time you pick up a newspaper or turn on the television by the left that just lies about everything, and then they kill everybody in the end. That's how the story always ends with the left, you know. Rod, thank you. Thank you for the call. You know, BOGO is back for 1 week only on the Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3 air purifier, the newest, latest Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier. This new thunderstorm uses two technologies, and that helps to kill 99.9% of bacteria and viruses in the air, helps remove dust and smoke and a lot more from the air that you breathe, gets rid of any odor at the same time with no filters to buy and replace again and again. The thunderstorm will help you get rid of any stinky smell guaranteed. Talking about trash cans, cigarette smoke, smelly shoes, left-wing protesters. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. And this week, you can buy one thunderstorm, get one free. Buy two, get two for free. No matter how many you buy, you get an equal number for free. Put one in your basement, your bedroom, your teenager's room. Make one a gift. Bring one to the office. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code ChrisBogo. That's for buy one, get one, you know. Buy one, get one. That's EdenPureDeals.com. On Al Gore's amazing internet, the discount code is Chris, B-O-G-O. Yes, sir. Yeah, you're Democrats. Yeah, it's true. Robert Preston, the Music Man, kind of was the founder of rap, wasn't he? Did he invent rap? Should we give Robert Preston credit for creating rap in The Music Man? Robert Preston, who I met many times when I was very young. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. The news media very excited to announce this morning that Kilmar Albrego Garcia, who the Democrats want to run for the Senate, has been transferred to a different prison facility in El Salvador. CBS Fake News writing this morning, Kilmar Albrego Garcia transferred to El Salvador facility with own bed and furniture. Update reveals. And they've got a nice picture of Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen rubbing the back of Albrego Garcia's hand like they're intimate. Trump administration said he was deported to El Salvador. They're still saying that he was deported incorrectly. The tattoos tell the tale. The confidential informants tell the tale. The Prince George's County Police tell the tale. The immigration courts told the tale. Our Democrat Party, look at their heroes. They're gonna put Albrego Garcia on a stamp, along with Luigi Mangione. We should have the Democrat collection stamp set. They could have Mahmoud Khalil and Albrego Garcia. You'd have Kilmar Albrego Garcia on a stamp, and Luigi Mangione on a stamp. The Democrats, all their heroes are murderers and would-be murderers like, Mahmoud Khalil. He just wants to kill all the Jews and wipe Israel off the map from the river to the sea and train a generation of Americans to be with him on that. And the Ivy League, they want to invite him in to further corrupt our culture. Aren't they amazing? There was also big news over the weekend. And today, when I woke up this morning, I didn't expect to learn that Pope Francis had died. Again, he was in the Pope Mobile making the rounds at St. Peter's Square yesterday in front of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, Rome, Italy. And Well, in fact, a great friend of mine, Anna, producer at Newsmax, is in Italy with her father is from Italy, off the boat from Italy. Great guy, I know him too. And in Italy, young Anna is in Italy with her family, with her mother and her father visiting Italy. She also, very good Catholic, her family, very good Catholics, was one of our Newsmax people designated to go to the Vatican in the event that the Pope should pass from this world. And now she's in Italy, I think in Naples with her family there. And now she's already there in Italy. Going to have to take the train, I guess, instead of plane. But amazing stuff. And the executive producer of my show, Jeff Field, my television show at Newsmax, also designated to a very good Catholic, one of 11 kids. His mother, one of 11 kids, good Catholics. He, too, is designated to go to Italy for the funeral and then the voting on a new pope, and that'll be great fun for them. Be a great thing to be there for, and to be working for that would be great too. Now, there was another big story over the weekend that was pretty wild. The unprecedented intervention blocks gang deportations. I'm sorry, what's this? The Supreme Court acts as referee for Trump actions. This is the front page lead story of the Washington Times this morning, not the Washington Post, because they're godless communists, of course. But the Washington Times today, the Supreme Court waded even more deeply into President Trump's immigration powers this weekend by ordering an emergency halt of deportations to El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act, as the justices signaled a striking willingness to referee administration actions. Justice Samuel A. Alito, Jr., who dissented, called his colleagues' intervention unprecedented. He said they broke their rules governing when they hear the case. They broke the rules governing when they hear the case. Pardon me, I'm getting a little. But they broke their own rules, the court did, to hear the case when they could issue an emergency blockade against Mr. Trump. In an unsigned directive, the court ordered the administration not to touch a group of Venezuelans who argue they're being sent to a staging point in Texas in preparation for being deported to El Salvador, where the U.S. is paying the government of El Salvador, to hold people America deems terrorists, by dint of suspected gang ties. Well, it's true that the Trump administration, the Trump government, the U.S. government under President Trump, has designated MS-13, the Salvadoran gang, and Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang, designated them as terrorist organizations, and therefore they can be treated more harshly. And let me say this. The whole world is showing the videos of these guys that we've deported getting their heads buzz cut, their heads kind of shaved with buzz cutters, and taken in shackles with their heads down by their counterterrorism people who are wearing masks. The law enforcement are wearing masks because they don't want to be singled out and murdered by the gangs, and they don't want their families murdered by the gangs because they know these gangs to be terrorist organizations that murder by the thousands. And so when the gang members in Venezuela see that, they say, I don't think I'm going to the United States anymore, It's like, it reminds me of Tony Montana and Scarface, said, hey, this ain't no cakewalk anymore. They got AWACS and the Coast Guard and all this stuff going up, and it ain't no cakewalk. Tony Montana was suddenly afraid to be smuggling drugs into the United States. And I know that when the bad guys in Latin America and elsewhere see this video of what Trump is doing to illegal alien gang members, it creates a mighty disincentive for gang members in El Salvador, in Venezuela, and elsewhere, when it comes to their appetite coming to the United States of America. It's a real turnoff, you know. So we've got that. So Sam Alito, who was joined by Clarence Thomas in dissenting against the court, in the unsigned directive, the court ordered the administration not to touch a group of Venezuelans who argue they're being sent to a staging point in Texas, preparation for being deported to El Salvador, where the U.S. is paying the government of El Salvador to hold people America deems terrorists by dint of suspected gang ties. The government is directed not to remove any member of the putative class of detainees from the United States until further order from this court. The majority of the court, 7 of them, said it offered no reasoning in the brief statement other than citing the court's power under the All Writs Act. The case is the latest to test Mr. Trump's powers under the 1798 law he is using to bypass the regular immigration system and speed deportations of people the U.S. government says are members of MS-13, an El Salvador-based gang, or Tren de Aragua, a Venezuela-based gang. Now, this is quite fascinating, but the Supreme Court stopped him, and what this order is considered to be kind of peculiar. But Justice Alito did dissent and put out a dissenting statement in which I thought he was very clear and concise. It is a dissent that goes on for a number of pages, but in legal talk and Supreme Court talk, it really is quick and concise. Justice Alito, a great American. AARP, this is the American Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Just kidding. It's the, retired people. It's not the NAACP. It's the AARP, the retired people group. Now, how do they have standing? What are they defending? Really old gang members? What is that? You got retired gang members? The AARP, it's like shouldn't it be the AARGMs instead of AARPs? The American Association of Retired Gang Members. So why is the AARP jumping in to defend gang members against deportation? And the answer is because they don't represent retired people. They represent the interests of the left wing of everything. And if you're a lefty and you take over an organization, whether it's the AARP or the Southern Poverty Law Center, it just becomes another left-wing group. Who is it that got the Obama administration guy in charge of the Jewish group, and now it's not really a Jewish group, it's just a left-wing group, because when the left takes over, that's the end of it. But Justice Samuel Alito, with whom Justice Thomas joins, dissenting from the Supreme Court's ruling over the weekend, shortly after midnight. Now, they wrote this day before yesterday, April 19th, from Samuel Alito and Justice Clarence Thomas. Shortly after midnight yesterday, the court, meaning the U.S. Supreme Court, hastily and prematurely granted unprecedented emergency relief. Proceeding under the All Writs Act, 28 U.S.C. 1651, the court ordered the government not to remove a putative class of detainees until this court issues a superseding order, 604 U.S. Code 2025. Although the order does not define the putative class, it appears that the court means all members of the class that the habeas petitioners sought to have certified, namely all non-citizens in custody in the Northern District of Texas who were, are, or will be subject to the March 2025 presidential proclamation entitled Invocation of the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by Tren de Aragua and or its implementation. I love legalese, don't you? Motion for class certification, on and on with code this and code that. And although the court does not specify what it means by the government, It appears the term is intended to embrace all the named defendants, including the president. That's the president of the United States. Now, the dissent goes on for many pages, but Justice Alito and Justice Clarence Thomas saying that the Supreme Court had exceeded its boundaries in intervening on behalf of why the AARP is representing gang members who are being deported from the United States. What's the matter with them? Isn't that amazing? Just remarkable stuff. But this is a big deal, and far be it from me. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not a Supreme Court justice. But I have pretty good judgment, I think, and for the court to intervene. How does AARP have standing to represent gang members? Again, I need to know if they're retired gang members. And do they have a retirement plan of any kind, the MS-13? Because, the TV network MS-13 NBC, also known as MS-13 DNC, they're on the side of the criminals everywhere you look. Man, oh man. Our country has gone quite mad, hasn't it? Yes, it has. Yes, sir. And we got on MS-13, soundbite number 8. Soundbite number 8. MS-13 NBC has a hostess named Katie Fang. I wonder if she's related to Fang Fang, the Chinese secret agent who's been having sex with Democrat Congressman Eric Swalwell all these years, who took him from a city council seat in California to the House Intelligence Committee in Washington. Boy, the Chinese, that's Fang Fang is her name. But here is Katie Fang of MS-13 NBC talking to Jasmine Crockett, the insane Democrat, who she's thrilled that Chris Van Hollen went down to rub hands with their favorite MS-13 gang member. Well, we don't know that it's their favorite MS-13 gang member, but it could be. Kilmore Abrego Garcia. And here's MSDNC.
Maryland Senator Van Hollen just went to El Salvador. After meeting with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he said he thinks that El Salvador was feeling some pressure, and that's why they let him meet with him. But ultimately, Nayib Bukele saying he's going to remain in the custody of El Salvador. We need to see more action, though, from people kind of emulating what we saw from Senator Van Hollen, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, first of all, kudos to Senator Van Hollen. Kudos. And honestly, that's what it looks like to be an elected representative.
Here is Kilmar Abrego Garcia, hero of the Democrat Party. They're going to run him for office. They all want to date him. They want to touch him, just like Chris Van Hollen did, in a peculiar way. But I did share with you that he has now been moved to another facility. So I think Chris Van Hollen, lover of MS-13, can score himself a big winner here. Say, I'm doing so great that I got to move to another prison. Yeah, that's real good. Jasmine Crockett, who is certifiably mental, loving Chris Van Hollen and Abrego Garcia on MS-13 DNC.
If Senator Van Hollen can get down there, if the president can get up here and get to the White House, then I don't understand why we can't get Abrego up out of there. I mean, we know that they admitted that they were wrong. Now they're trying to double back and say, well, he's this terrible person and all this kind of stuff. But here's the reality. As far as I'm concerned, he's a lot less criminal than the person that's sitting in the White House. Because last time I checked, he doesn't have any criminal convictions. I don't even think he has any outstanding cases versus the guy that still had cases pending when he was sworn in on January 20th and also has 34 felony convictions.
The party of civil war. You mean that fake setup? What was that one for you guys lying about the value of his real estate in Florida? Or was that the one about the non-disclosure agreement with the woman? And the third world, the left is the third world. The left brings with them the third world and third world-ism. Today's Democrat Party is the third world. And double back. Nobody doubled back. She's a pathologically dishonest person like so many of them. The Democrat Party. Yeah, but Trump was convicted by a Democrat Party lynch mob, and they are the party of lynching black people from trees with ropes. That's the Democrat Party. Just in case you're black and you're wondering, you should look it up. Go to the Tuskegee Institute website. They've got a lot of good information on it. Our Democrat Party. They love gangs and gangsters. They love jihadis. They're anti-Semites. They're anti-American. They're anti-capitalist. And they would jail all their political enemies just like communists all over the world have been doing for a long, long time.
We still got to take that to Florida, man. Do you know what that's like these days? That's no duck walk anymore. Let me tell you.
In the United Kingdom, where they have England and places like that, they have lefties also. They've got lefties. And over the weekend, the lefty transgender people, which is natural if you're British, because they have those powdered wigs and they wear those long things and stuff. But in the United Kingdom, they have transgender people, and they're protesting. And all the transgender people are out in the street in London, the Houses of Parliament behind them, and they're screaming their support for Hamas, who would throw them off of rooftops and kill every single one of them with great joy.
We need to connect with the Palestine movement, the strongest.
Woo! They all say woo.
The Palestine movement, the strongest shining light in this dark time that says no to hopelessness, no to cynicism, no to nihilism, and says yes to justice, freedom, and liberation.
See, Hamas, the Palestinians run by Hamas, voted for Hamas. They're for freedom and justice.
This is why I will always say, and you can say it with me.
Say it with him.
One struggle, one fight. Palestine trans rights. One struggle, one fight.
Jews for Hitler.
Struggle, one fight. One struggle, one fight.
They must be watching CNN or something. They're not getting their news. No, let me explain this to you. They're jihadis. They would kill every one of you just for being who you are. Honestly, it's like, chickens for Colonel Sanders.